The next chapter to be discussed is liquidation of companies. Under this topic, we are going to cover a theory part and a numerical part. Let's understand the meaning of liquidation. So, what's the reason where company decides to close their business? When company run out of funds to cover the debts, the company will not able to continue. So, company reaches a point where it decides to close the business. So, liquidation in finance and economics is the process of bringing a business to an end and distributing its assets to claimants. As a company operations ends, the remaining assets are used to pay creditors and shareholders based on the priority of their claims. So here the process where business converts their assets into cash to make a payment is called liquidation. So there are three modes of liquidation of company. The first one is compulsory winding up by the court. Then the second one, voluntary winding up by members and by creditors. And the third one is voluntary winding up under the supervision of the court. Let's see all the three modes of liquidation of company. The first one is compulsory winding up. Grounds for compulsory winding up, which is covered under section 433 of the Companies Act. Here let's see the first one, special resolution of the company. If company makes special resolution to wound up by the court. And the second one, default. When companies make default for holding a statutory meeting and delivering statutory report to the registrar of the companies, the court may ask to wind up. And the third one is if company does not commence its business within a year from its incorporation. And the fourth ground is reduction of members. When members falls below the requirement, like 7 in case of public company and 2 in case of private company. Then the fifth one, when company unable to pay its debts. Then the last ground is the just and equitable clause. When court feels that the company should wound up, the compulsory winding up takes place. Then the next one is voluntarily winding up. A company can wound up voluntarily in following circumstances by passing two resolution. The one is ordinary resolution, the other one is special resolution. So let's see when the company pass the ordinary resolution and the special resolution. So the first one, an ordinary resolution. By passing, here the company passes a ordinary resolution when the company duration comes to end as per the date which is fixed in the articles. And the second one, when the event or purpose for which the company was formed has fulfilled, and as per article the company go for voluntarily liquidation. And the second one, the company passes special resolution in case of voluntarily winding up, and it must be notified to the public by an advertisement in the newspaper. The last mode is voluntarily winding up under the supervision of the court. Under this, winding up process will be done under supervision of the court to protect the creditors, to protect the interest of the creditors and contributories of the company. So who are the contributories? Here they are the members of the company and the shareholders of the company. Liquidator. So who is the liquidator? So liquidator is a person with legal authority to act on behalf of a company to sell the company's asset before the company closes in order to generate cash for a variety of reasons including debt repayment. So here liquidator's main function is to sell the assets and discharge all the liabilities. And here the liquidator is appointed by the court in case of compulsorily winding up, and in case of members voluntarily winding up, the liquidator is appointed by the members. And in case of creditors voluntarily liquidation, both the creditors and members can appoint the liquidator in the respective meeting. Let's see what is liquidator's final statement of accounts. So the statement prepared by the liquidator following receipts and payment of cash in case of voluntarily winding up is called a liquidator final statement of account. This is liquidator's final statement of accounts. On the receipt side, you can see amount collected through these assets like marketable securities, bills receivable, amount received by trade debtors, loans and advance, stock in trade, work in progress, amount received by selling fixed assets like land and building, plant and machinery, furniture and fixture, patents, trademarks, investment, and in case any surplus left after making payment to secured creditors, that has to be shown on the receipt side. Any calls in arrears received, or amount received from calls on share, this has to be shown on the receipt side of the final statement of accounts. Payment side, you can see the payments made by the liquidators to the creditors and the member of the company. And important thing to be noted here is that the payment has to be made in the following order. So the first one, the payment has to be made to secured creditors, after that legal expenses, and then liquidators remuneration, and after paying liquidator remuneration, payment has to be made to the debenture holders and other creditors having floating charge on the assets. We will discuss about this. And the next, payment has to be made to the preferential creditors, then unsecured creditors, and then calls in advance, in case any call amount received in advance by the shareholders, that has to be paid to those particular shareholders. Then arrears of dividend has to be cleared on cumulative preference shares, then amount due on the cumulative preference shareholders. After that, preference shareholders capital has to be paid, and equity shareholders capital. At the end, here the payment has to be made to equity shareholders. These are the very important points to be noted while preparing liquidator final statement of accounts. Let's understand one by one. Assets which is provided as a security against debentures or creditors, whatever amount realized from the specific asset should be shown on the receipt side, and on the payment side, the secured creditor should be recorded to the extent of amount payable or realized, whichever is less. In case the amount realized is less than the amount payable, that amount has to be treated as unsecured creditors. So here let's understand this with an example. So payable to secured creditor is rupees 1 lakh. So the amount due to unsecured creditor is rupees 1 lakh, and this is pledged against furniture. So after selling furniture, the company received 80,000. So the remaining 20,000 has to be treated as a unsecured creditors. Okay. So here the secured creditor is 1 lakh, and the amount received by selling furniture is 80,000. So still the company has to pay 20,000 to these secured creditors, but they are secured only up to 80,000. So that 20,000 has to be treated as unsecured creditors. And the second point is the amount realized is less than amount payable. That amount has to be treated as unsecured creditors. Yes, we know that this 20,000 has to be treated as a unsecured creditor, and payment to these unsecured creditors has to be made after making payment to preferential creditors. So we need to make a payment. This 20,000 has to be paid after paying preferential creditors. So here the payable to secured creditor is 1 lakh and it is pledged against furniture. Amount received by selling furniture is 80,000. The remaining amount of rupees 20,000 is to be treated as unsecured creditor, and this 20,000 has to be paid after making payment to preferential creditor. We'll know what is preferential creditors means in the next slide. And third, in the case of calls in arrears given in the balance sheet, the liquidator has to recover from the concerned shareholders. Okay, so until recovery happens from concerned shareholders, the repayment cannot be made and liquidator can forfeit those shares. In case of unrecovery of any calls amount, then the liquidator has power to forfeit those shares. Okay, so let's see here, 10,000 equity shares of rupees 10 each. Okay, the face value is 10 each, and 2,000 shareholders paid only rupees 9,000. They paid only 9, so 1 rupee is still unpaid. In such case, liquidator has to recover from them rupee 1. So here the liquidator has to receive 1 rupee from these 2,000 shareholders. In case of non-recovery, if liquidator failed to recover that 1 rupee, then he can forfeit these 2,000 shares. Here forfeit means he can cancel those equity shares. And the fourth point is, in case of deficiency of balance to make payment to outside creditors or preference shareholders, then the uncalled amount on equity shares must be called to the extent. Here liquidator can call for an uncalled amount only in case of deficiency of balance to make payment to outside creditors or preference shareholders. Then the fifth point is about any liquidation expenses can be shown before liquidator remuneration, and the sixth point is about liquidator remuneration. The liquidator remuneration has to be paid fixed amount or on assets realized or amount paid to unsecured creditor. Here asset realized includes all assets realized except cash and bank, plus it includes calls in arrears and call money, unless it is specified that the remuneration should not be paid on calls in arrears and call money. Then in that case we have to exclude amount collected on calls in arrears and call money. Then here I would like to clarify one more important thing regarding assets realized. In case of mortgage, it is presumed that the ownership of the asset remains with owner. So the liquidator remuneration has to be calculated on total asset realized. In case when asset is specifically pledged, it is presumed that the concerned creditor realized the asset, then in such case the surplus on that asset to be involved for the calculation of liquidator remuneration. Then the next, amount realized. If it says that liquidator remuneration has to be paid on amount realized, then we need to take total receipts, which includes surplus plus calls in arrears plus calls in advance. Then amount paid to unsecured creditor. When it says liquidator remuneration has to be paid on amount paid to unsecured creditor, in that case preferential creditors are treated as part of unsecured creditor. Please remember this point. So preferential creditors are treated as a part of unsecured creditor for calculation of liquidator remuneration. Then the second B point is when the balance amount available to pay unsecured creditor is sufficient. When the amount is insufficient, when the balance amount is sufficient, then we need to follow this formula: amount payable to unsecured creditors into percentage of commission divided by 100. And about B, when the balance available is insufficient to make a payment to unsecured creditor, in that case we need to use this formula. Then point C says when remuneration is paid on total amount payable to shareholders. So here balance amount available before making payment to shareholders into percentage of commission divided by 100 plus percentage of commission. This formula has to be used. Then the 7th point is regarding payment to debenture holders. So here we need to make a note, one important point. When debenture holders are not secured against specific asset, it must be always treated as secured on floating charges, and payment to debenture holders must be discharged before preferential preferential creditors. So here, when debentures are not specifically secured against any asset, then it has to be treated as secured on floating charges. In such case, the debenture holders must be discharged first before making payment to preferential creditors. Okay. Then the next point is about the preferential creditors. So preferential creditor is one that is preferred by law. So all taxes, cess, or any amount due to government, state government or central government, or any amount due to employees regarding compensation, or regarding funds, that will all come under preferential creditors. And the next point is about call money received. Any call money received in advance by shareholders, it should be paid after payment to unsecured creditors. Okay. Then the 10th point is about preference dividend. A dividend declared but not paid treated as unsecured creditor. When dividend is declared but not paid, in such case that dividend has to be treated as unsecured creditors. Then the arrears of dividend on cumulative preference share capital has to be paid before making payment to preference share capital. So that we need to remember. Then the 11th point is about when share capital includes both partly paid shares and fully paid up shares, then amount must be paid towards fully paid up shares, then partly paid up shares. So these are the 11 points which helps you to prepare liquidator's final statement of account.